Like me, you think of Philip Roth as having been one of the great voices of the last 50, 60, 70 years in Western fiction. Can you tell me quickly why?
Yeah, he's one of the giants, certainly, of post-war American fiction. If you think of the biggest figures of the post-war era in American letters, I think of Saul Bellow, John Updike, Norman Mailer, and Philip Roth belongs in that company. And actually, to my mind, he's probably the greatest of them all. And that's partly a function of his extraordinary longevity. He started publishing short stories in the late 1950s and was still going strong as recently as 2010. And there's an extraordinary stylistic evolution in his work over that 60-year period.
But his mission was to disrupt, wasn't it?
His mission was to disrupt.
He wanted to boot out the respectable, very serious, rather puritanical high ground of American literature and introduce sex, reality.
And, crucially, Jewishness. Sex and Jews are his favourite subject.
Yes, and then not without controversy.
Not without controversy. So
he was accused of being anti-Semitic.
Well, he was. In 1959, he wrote a short story called Defender of the Faith, which attracted accusations from the American Jewish community of him being a self-hating Jew and of doing anti-Semites work for them. And then he ran into exactly the same charge 10 years later with publication of one of his most famous novels and one of his funniest, Portnoy's Complaint.
He also lived and wrote through the time when the consciousness of women's lives and feminism was growing like mad. And of course he fell tremendously on the wrong side of that body of opinion. In a way, I mean, I remember it because it was me when I was young, a teenager, and started reading this stuff. It was very hard to reconcile one's absolutely gobsmacked admiration for this incredible writer with one's growing feminist principles. So it was difficult, and it culminated in, I think, 2011, 10, I think it was, the Man Booker International Prize, which he won. And one of the judges, Carmen Khalil, a feminist publisher, walked out in protest. And it did divide opinion very considerably and was quite a challenge. In a sense, you know, he was a man of his time and he wouldn't have thrived, particularly in the Me Too generation.
No, he was. I mean, I think there is a difference in his attitudes towards women in his fiction to, say, that of Norman Mailer. And, his personal story, as far as his relations with women concerned, certainly not as chaotic or violent as Mailer's. But as you say, he was a man of his time, and his views about the relations between the sexes reflect that. But he would have said he was probably a student of eros and what that does to human beings, what erotic passion does to human beings.
And he had an extraordinary late-blooming time with a run of the novels that are known as the Nemesis books.
Enoch Powell famously said that all political careers end in failure, and it's probably true about literary careers as well. But he seems to have more or less avoided that. And he also was very prescient. You'll remember his 2004 novel, The Plot Against America, which imagines Charles Lindbergh being elected as a quasi-Nazi president of the United States in 1940, and read from the standpoint of today and under the Trump administration, that is beginning to look a bit like prophecy.
An extraordinary man and a great writer, Philip Roth.